together. And hello, Jordan. Welcome to Clubhouse. There's a scene in the movie where literally, your yacht sinks, and it's just a crazy scene. But to me, that scene. My question is to you, like, did that whole instant really change your life, and did it help you reassess where you're headed towards? Because I don't know how true that movie or that scene was, and you can probably go into it.
You mean the yacht sinking?
Yeah, the yacht.
So yes, most of the movie was true. The things that weren't true, things you probably think weren't true, the crazy stuff was true. So that scene was indeed true, and it was actually much wilder and more insane than the movie made out, because that was like a budgetary issue. Like, to have the yacht sinking in the real way it sank would have been prohibitively expensive. It was an 18-hour ordeal that started with me arriving in Italy, in Rome, high as a kite, like on all sorts of quotes, up, downs, in betweens. I'm sober, guys, for 20-something years now, right? But this is back in my heyday when I was wild, you know what I'm saying? So, and I basically found myself in this sort of drug-induced equivalent of having ants in your pants. I couldn't sit still. Like, I had to move. But when I got to my yacht, which was at Port de Cerviata in Rome, and I was heading to Sardinia, 100 miles away, it was straight shot there, right? My captain says, we really shouldn't go. There's a kind of a little storm out there with like 7 to 9 foot waves. And I'm like, 7 to 9 foot waves? No, we can take that. I actually, I'm a good closer, right? So I closed the captain into taking the boat out into what was, at that moment, a reasonably bad storm, but nothing that the boat couldn't handle. And suddenly that kicked up into a force 7 gale with 50-foot waves, which were basically walls of water. And the boat sank literally over a 12-hour period. It was insane. Like, these, the boat was literally like going up and down peaks and troughs of these enormous waves, which are 50 feet high, but also like 30 feet thick. And when the boat finally got hit with a rogue wave from the size, it capsized. And I think the funniest part of that scene was when, like, the last moment, like, we had to get rescued, right, by a helicopter, and we were allowed to take whatever we could carry. We had money, artwork, jewelry. I just went for the Quaaludes. That was all I cared about, was the drugs. That's how insane I was at the time. To answer your question about, did it change my life? The answer is absolutely not. Like, I was in such denial. I'm going to be honest with you. At that moment, and this is, so people who've recovered from a drug addiction will know this feeling. You're in such, you could rationalize anything. I'm like, it's just, just a little bit of bad luck. And my plane crashed 10 days later, coming to pick us up. But you were able to rationalize anything. So, like, over the next year, I got even wilder. It literally took another year and almost killing myself until I finally got to the point where I was no longer romanticizing about drugs, and I was basically done. And that's when I got sober. So the yacht walk was a wild experience and great to watch on a movie. The impact it had on my psyche was very limited at the time.
Yeah, because it was interesting. They almost made that out like it was sort of a turning point for you. But, obviously it took you a while to really be like, oh, shit, I need to really change.
Correct.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, so in the movie, that's like a classic example of what's not true in the movie. But they collapsed time. Like, they made things happen quicker in some respects. So, yeah, it's true. I did reach that moment, right, where I was like, I'm done. I'm going to get sober. I'm going to live a different life. But that happened about a year afterwards.
Oh, thanks for that, Jordan. Thanks, Dan.
You got it, my friend.
All right, thank you. Our next question will be from the joint venture expert, and then Vishal.
Thanks, Dan, for having me. Hey, Jordan. It's good to meet up again with you. I've got a question for you, right? I think, first of all, sales. I think everyone should learn how to sell. I think it should be the main number one skill that everyone, regardless of whether you like to sell or not, should be able to sell. Now, I'm not a great salesman, but I do pretty well. What I want to know from you is basically, how do you maintain control of the sales conversation without being too manipulative? What advice would you give to someone like me on that?
So I think the key to having control and maintaining control, well, let me go back a step. It starts off by getting control. And then the next step is maintaining control. So the way you get control of a conversation is by being perceived the right way. So those we have basically been trained or conditioned over most of our lives since we're old enough to basically walk to defer to people who we consider to be experts, to people who we think are sharp and on the ball, problem solvers. So I always say these three things you have to get in someone else's mind in the first few seconds of a conversation. Number one, that you're sharp as a tack. Two, enthusiastic as hell. And number three, an expert in your field. That's the most important one of all, an expert in your field. By being perceived as an expert, what it does, you don't have to take control. The person will actually cede control of the conversation to you because intuitively, we know that when we're in the position or in the presence of an expert, we are supposed to allow them to control the flow of the encounter. When we were young, our parents took us to a doctor when we were sick, and the doctor made us better. And, we were amazed at how, even our own parents would defer to the doctor. When the doctor asked us questions, we would answer honestly and forthrightly. We've been conditioned for this since we're very, very young. So it starts with this ability, using tonality, using body language to sound sharp on the ball, enthusiastic and an expert in your field. And once you get that control, the way you actually build on that, believe it or not, is not by just talking. It's by asking questions. So you want to use control to start asking questions in a certain way, using certain tonalities in a certain order, with certain, follow-up questions. And as the prospect responds to you, you want to be using what's called active listening, where you're like, You're giving them feedback in grunts and groans and yups and yeses and ahas, and maybe even finishing certain sentences and adding little tidbits of information onto their own responses. And by doing that, they're like, wow, this guy is, oh my God, they're so sharp. By the time you're done asking your questions, not only have you hopefully uncovered everything you need to know to close the sale, what their needs are, their values, their pain points, most importantly, but also in their mind, you're in such tight rapport, like, wow, this person really cares, they feel my pain, they understand me. And by doing that, not only have you gotten control, but you've used that control to gather intelligence. And as you gather intelligence by asking questions, you're getting into ultra tight rapport through the way you listen as they respond. That's the front half of a sale until the point when you then make a decision. Is the person qualified? Can you help them? If they are, then you want to transition into, well, Jim, Jill, John, based on what you said, what I have here, the solution's a perfect fit for you, or to be it's not, and you want to end the sale. But that's called the front part of the sale. Does that make sense?
Yeah, brilliant, Jordan. I'm a big fan of your straight line method as well, and I think it's helped so many people. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Hold on,
we
real
also
quick.
we have the Clever Investor up here and Cole Hatter. Clever, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, what's up, JB? How are you?
What's up? Doing good.
A question for you. What do you think about Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference book?
I love Chris. Chris was on my podcast recently. Very sharp guy. And what's funny about Chris is that there's so many things about the straight line. And what Chris teaches, they're very, very similar. So negotiation is one part of selling, because, on some level, sales is a negotiation. So I think Chris is, one of the, few people out there that really has some good information. So I would recommend that if you haven't read his stuff, that you should read his stuff. I'm a big fan. And I think there's a lot of similarities. I think one of the funny things was I used to kid around and say, I have this thing, you have 4 seconds to establish these 3 crucial things, right? I say, well, I was actually wrong because 20 years later, Harvard University came out with a study saying it's 7 seconds. I mean, well, all right, I beat him by 20 years. I feel pretty good. But Chris has that same thing. He says it's 7 seconds. I say it's 4 seconds. The point is that first impressions are everything in sales, in business, and in life. And another interesting thing to think about is that same Harvard study. Not only did they say it was 7 seconds, but they said if you make a negative first impression in business, it takes 7 subsequent impressions to change someone's mind about you. Think about that for a second. So again, that ultra important first impression happens very quickly, and everything either flows positively or negatively from there.
Love it. I want to see a Jordan Belfort Chris Voss collaboration on a sales and negotiation training. I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah, he's a great. I'm a big we were talking about a lot of stuff. We're both fans of each other's work, so I think it would be great.
Yeah, and Chris has been diving into Clubhouse pretty aggressively, so it's been good to watch him on here, and I'm excited that Mr. Jordan Belfort is here with us on Clubhouse for his first time to really dive in. Cole Hatter, are you there with us also?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up, Dan? What's up, Jordan? Great to be here.
What's up? My pleasure.
So question I had is, and I've got we've met a bunch of times through Dan, but my question to you is, and I've seen it a bit, so maybe more just answering this question for all of the audience to hear, but with all of the attention to you and your personal brand through the movie and stuff, how are you able to funnel that into profitability? Like what are you doing to kind of stream off of all of the organic attention and really admiration that you're getting from the movie?
That's a great question, Brian. Isn't that the ultimate question? By the way, it's a question I ask myself every single day, right? And one thing I can tell you is that the truth is it's all about trial and error and being careful. Being careful in the sense that one thing I've been very, very careful about all these years was not to sell out and bastardize my brand. There's many things I could have done along the way. Many things I could have done, but like endorsing some stupid currency trading system or some ridiculous thing that just, like that would have paid me, 10, 20 million bucks or just sold out along the way. And I never did that. I never, for example, and this is nothing to say that business opportunities aren't good, because there are many amazing business opportunities. But there are also a lot of very unamazing business opportunities out there that are designed to basically separate people from their money. Now, those of you all know who I am, you know my past, right? So I have a gift in the sense that I made some huge errors, and I worked really hard to essentially be redeemed in the eyes of the world. But you know what? If I fucked up again, that's I don't think there's a third chance here, really. So number one for me is always protecting my brand, making sure I don't get involved with things, at least on purpose. Like, yeah, of course I've made some, stupid judgment errors over the last 20 years where you find someone else was up to no good. But I never done one thing where I myself actually engaged in something that didn't have, goodness at the heart of it. So that's number one. The other thing is I'm constantly doing things to make money on my brand. That really is the heart of how I make money right now. And it's what's happening. It's really interesting, though, is I found that over the years, my brand grows stronger and stronger and stronger with each passing day. Why? Because the movies become this sort of ultra cult movie. So every kid who watches it starting in high school, by the time they leave high school, they've watched it probably 10 times. By the time they leave college, if they went to college, they watched it 50 times. And now they're all out into the workplace. They're spending money. They're learning. They're growing. So organically, I have this sort of built-in increase to my brand on a daily basis. So, I'm always looking to do collaborations and joint ventures and things like that. But I'm very careful always that I don't want to do something that's going to end up causing the brand to look like I'm just trying to capitalize on the worser part of my fame and not the positive part. So that's the balance you got to strike.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So let's go to our next questions. Will be from Vishal and then Simon.
Thanks, Dan, for bringing me up and for hosting this. Jordan, I've literally had 1,000 questions go through my head in the last few minutes. Absolutely obsessed with the film, and I'm thinking from mindset to questions about the film. Why you were left out, why the bit about Steve Madden was left out, but I'm going to get something that's probably applicable to most people in this room. You can touch on the Steve Madden bit, actually, if you want. I'm sure you want to. I can tell.
I love Steve. Steve's great. I have respect for Steve when everything is accomplished. It's just I think in the movie, though, there's Marty had to pick his spots, like the story. It could have been 2 or 3 movies probably, right? But they have to pick their spots. I think they did a really good job at balancing things.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. So my question is, if you were starting out as an entrepreneur now, what would you go into? What business would you go into? If you just had to start from scratch?
Crypto.
What's that? Really?
Crypto and blockchain. Yeah, I used to be a huge bear. I was a huge bear in cryptocurrency for many years. And the reason, I'll tell you, I had very direct reasons for that. Number one, I was right in the beginning. So when Bitcoin first went to like 19,000 back in 2017, I knew it was going to crash. It was a guarantee. It was a certainty. I saw how it was trading technically. It got ahead of itself. There wasn't nearly a wide enough base. But that even wasn't the big part. The big part was sovereign risk. I was sure, because I had been through money laundering investigation myself, right? I'm like, there's no way they're going to allow this to go on. No way. So I figured for sure the governments would clamp down, shut it down, and that would be that. And they did for a while. They tried to clamp down. But I was wrong about one thing. I was right when I said, you should sell it, because it went down to like 2,000 or something. But I was wrong. I thought it would die. It didn't die. And in fact, it's come back now stronger than ever, and it has a much wider institutional following now. And also, there are more and more laws being passed and more regulation that's making it legitimate. I fully believe now that blockchain, crypto is the future of all finance. I really believe that. It might take 10 or 20 years till it really hits its peak here, but I really believe in decentralized finance, decentralized commerce. I believe in the ability to use blockchain for all sorts of things. I believe in the ability to use it for settling transactions using blockchain without having to use credit cards, and cheaper, faster, without holdbacks, without charge. I think there's so much opportunity in blockchain. So that's what I would go into without a doubt.
So based on your experience, which crypto would you go into, and would you go in now? Because everything's quite, it's pretty high at the moment.
Yeah. Don't take this as investment.
I'm not going to jump onto Coinbase right now and put it in.
Because who knows where it's going? I personally believe Bitcoin's going to hit 100,000 before it goes back down. That's my personal belief. I'm not telling anyone to buy it. But I'm not talking about this from the sense of what crypto to buy. I'm talking about actual blockchain technology itself, and trading this stuff and really being involved in all the different goods and services around blockchain and all the inventions and listen, the current financial system is fucking archaic the way it runs right now. When you really, in the last few months, I've had the benefit of having one of the smartest people in blockchain give me an in-depth education. So now I really understand it at a very deep level. Not quite at the coding level just yet, but I'm about to go into the coding side as well. So I really get it now. And the more you understand about blockchain and the ability to decentralize things using blockchain, the more I start questioning certain things that are happening right now in blockchain. Like where you're using centralized solutions, which in my mind is pretty much like shoving a square peg into a round hole in the world of blockchain. I believe blockchain so the most elegant solutions for blockchain will be decentralized, because it's decentralizing technology. So it's almost like you're almost cutting its legs out by trying to centralize it. That being said, I think it's very smart that the early players in this industry, still a nascent industry, used centralization to get people to start adopting crypto. So things like the big exchanges, right? Like Coinbase is very smart to start off by trying to centralize what really is a decentralizing technology, because you have to sort of give people a lifeline into the future right now. But I believe that over time, as this starts to really play itself out, you're going to see it moving more and more towards decentralization. I don't think it's going to be a case of like VHS or Betamax, for those who are old enough to know what that means. But I think it'll be more like Android and Apple. There's going to be decentralized people that are in the blockchain world and decentralized. And I think that ultimately decentralized will probably have a larger market share, but they'll both run parallel.
Thanks for that. Can I ask just one follow-up, which is linked to blockchain? What's your view on NFTs?
I love them. So I'm actually going to be doing some NFT stuff myself. It's a very good match for my brand. But again, like I always said, Dan Fleischman's been advising me on this. And the one thing Dan said to me is, your brand's so perfect, but don't rush to it. Don't sell out. Do something really cool. Wait, really put some time and get the right things that you're going to NFTize, NFT them, right? And I have some collaboration doing that, so that I'll probably announce something in the next few weeks on that. But I think it's a cool thing, and if you really, when I first heard it, I was just really diving into blockchain. Now I totally understand why it makes so much sense and why it definitely has legs for the future.
Love it. Thanks so much for being here and for answering the questions as well.
You got it.
Thank you, Vishal. All right, we're going to go with Simon and then Credit Ninja.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Don. And welcome, Jordan. Welcome, Wolf. I have 2 points. One, I just gotta say thank you for that video that you posted in December on your Instagram, playing golf from the balcony. If you that was amazing. That was epic, and I think that video actually needs a movie just by itself. Second, Jordan, your story of comeback is actually so inspirational on itself. And I think, oftentimes people think, a comeback is a go back to, what we were before. But personally, I think a comeback is kind of like, a grow to. And the way you reinvented yourself is so inspirational to me. So I'd love to ask, for your advice for, what kind of metrics and thought process you can advise us for anybody who's trying to reinvent themselves and navigate adversities. And I have a quick follow-up, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Probably one of they're all great questions. That's a really good one. So, it's interesting because, one of the people said, what is your, what about your brand? What's your brand? How do you monetize your brand? And the interesting part is first to understand what is your brand? Who really is your core audience? What type of pain points are you resolving? But why do people look to you? Why do people want to hear about what you have to say? I would say the interesting thing is, and this might shock some people, because you all probably think, well, mostly people that in the world of business and sales want to follow what I'm saying and learn some stuff and hear some interesting aspects of how I process stuff. But the one thing I get said to me more than anything out there in the world, when I walk through the streets, and I'm constantly being stopped by people, and I appreciate every person that says thank you. They all say thank you for saving my life, or changing my life. That by far is that I was an inspiration to them because they were going through a rough time, or they just sort of saw my comeback and said, "Wow, after what you went through, it's just like anything is possible." And that's the biggest thing that people say to me the most often, which makes me feel amazing, by the way, to know that I'm helping people like that, because there's nothing better than people say, you changed my life or you helped me. So I think that's a very poignant point you're making here. Now, as far as how do you do it? Well, number one, it starts with authenticity. You have to be authentic because people are smart. People can sniff out bullshit a mile away. In fact, one of the things with Dan and I were talking about NFTs, he's like, "Oh my God, you're perfect. You really need to do this because it's just so congruent. People will respect it and want it. But if the wrong people," he mentioned some names, that's not who they were, mostly actors and athletes, just wasn't right for them. He's like, if they did it, people would just say it's not really authentic. They're selling out, sort of thing. So it's really understanding, what is authentic to you. And then also, I'm a big believer in taking the path of least resistance. What are you great at? What are you really good at? What things resonate with you? There's an old saying, do I want to make money at what I'm really, I think it was Ed Milet once, I think we had this conversation along with my first podcast about, do you want to monetize your passion or monetize what you're great at? And he, without a bit of hesitation, Ed Milet said, what you're great at. You might be really passionate, I'm passionate about tennis, I kind of suck. I'm good enough to play, at a decent level, but I'm never getting on a call with Roger Federer doing any damage or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? It's so it starts with, number one, authenticity. Number two, honesty about what are your core skills? What are you great at? What do you have to offer? I believe that every human being has something special to offer. I really believe that. And even if you don't think so yourself, I really believe that. It might take some work and some study in you to bring it out and to take a skill that you might be a nascent skill from it. You haven't developed it. I wrote the book, The Wolf of Wall Street, which launched everything else on my comeback. I was a terrible writer when I started, but I spent 10,000 hours honing my skills to as close to perfection as I could get them. And that was what paved the way for everything that came after it. So it's authenticity, there's doing what you're great at, and then there's lots of hard work involved. And also being aware and just respecting the fact that you're going to have haters on the way back. There's going to be doubters. There's going to be people that don't believe that you've changed, that don't believe that you're ready to do things right. And you have to respect those people. You have to listen, there was a time in the early days where he's probably just going to go back to the old shit. And then people said, wow, wait, it's been like 7 years. And then it was 10 years. That's 12. Suddenly it's like 20. Wait, it's 35 years ago he did that when he was 20. And now I'm 58 years old, guys. I haven't done anything in 30 fucking years. So people I guess this is just who he is now. So it takes time. And you have to, I wouldn't say embrace your haters, but you have to just understand you're going to get shit on your comeback and just stay strong. And as long as you know you're being true to yourself and you're working your ass off, you will make that comeback. Promise you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jordan. Sure. Just a quick follow-up. So I have I immigrated to the United States about 11 years ago. And I have quite a story. And I'm launching, I started my personal brand about a year and a half ago, and I'm currently recording my podcast in my first season. And I was just wondering, how can we get you, to bring you to our audience?
You got to send a DM to my team here, and someone goes through them every day. And then, again, I'm busy, but I love going on podcasts, so you just got to catch it at the right time,
Awesome. All right, no problem. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Simon. We also have one of the best hosts in all of Clubhouse up here, Mr. Craig Clemens, your former neighbor. Craig.
Craig.
What's up, Jordan? I can't believe I missed you being neighbors. We were so close.
I know. It's nice up here, right?
Oh, man, I miss it, but no complaints over here at the beach. It's great to see you.
I came from the beach. That's the opposite. I came from the beach up into the hills. You went from the hills to the beach.
That's right. Yeah. When was that when we had that dinner? It must have been 10 years ago.
It was it was probably 9 or 10 years ago. Can't believe it. You were like a junior copywriter back then, I think, right?
I was, man. I think I had just gone off on my own and was looking for my next gig. I think that's how we started talking.
That's so funny. Well, you certainly kicked ass, which is great. I love to see. I followed your career the whole way through Dan and everything. It was pretty cool to watch you rise up. It's great.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate the kind words.
So,
is this your first Clubhouse?
This is my first Clubhouse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I kept threatening to go on it. And Dan and I were playing this for a while. And then I was traveling, and even during COVID, I'm still doing my traveling. Thank God, right? And finally, just these stars aligned. And I think it's a really cool platform. And best thing is you can be doing it at home in your underwear, right? Because it's not a video. It makes it really easy,
Easiest way to create content, no editing, no posting. You just talk, and you seem to be a pretty good talker, Jordan. So I think you're gonna like this for me.
So Craig, let's turn the table. Let's ask you a question real quick, Craig Clemens. Since you've been hosting all these great rooms on here,